NBA player lost at sea. Bison Dele, the former NBA player, disappeared at sea in July of 2002 after sailing from Tahiti on his catamaran with his girlfriend Serena Carlin, his brother Miles DeBoard, and skipper Bertrand Saldo. Just 2 days into the trip, all contact stopped. By July 20th, DeBoard returned to Tahiti alone, with the boat's nameplate removed and patched bullet holes visible. Authorities quickly grew suspicious, especially after DeBoard used Dele's passport to buy over $150,000 in gold and open mailboxes in his name. A sting operation led to his arrest in Phoenix, and soon after, the FBI and French police discovered he had bought weights believed to be used to sink bodies. DeBoard claimed Carlin died accidentally during a fight. The skipper was killed by Dele in panic, and he shot Dele in self-defense, but nothing backed that story. Investigators found no physical evidence to support it, and DeBoard never provided a full explanation. Instead, he overdosed on insulin, slipped into a coma, and died in late September. His lawyer gave little clarity and dodged further questioning. A crew member had quit the trip early, saying the brothers constantly argued. With all three presumed dead, the boat damaged, and no bodies recovered, officials admitted the truth would probably never surface. A memorial was held for both brothers. Malice at the Palace. On November 19, 2004, one of the wildest moments in NBA history exploded with 46 seconds left in a game between the Pacers and Pistons. After a hard foul, Ben Wallace shoved Ron Artest, and chaos started brewing. While Artest tried to calm down by lying on the scorer's table, a fan threw a drink that hit him. Artest ran into the stands, mistook a fan for the culprit, and grabbed him. More Pacers followed. Punches flew, and fans threw everything from drinks to chairs. The game ended early. Police had to escort the Pacers off the floor, and multiple people were hurt. The NBA handed out 9 suspensions, totaling 146 games, with Artest missing the rest of the season. 5 players were charged with assault and sentenced to probation and community service. 5 fans also faced charges, were banned from Pistons games, and 1 served jail time. The league changed security rules and alcohol sales to prevent anything like this from happening again. Years later, Artest apologized and called it one of the biggest regrets of his career. Several Pacers said the brawl destroyed a team with championship potential. What started with 1 foul spiraled into something that forever changed how the league handles players, fans, and defense. Kobe Bryant. On January 26, 2020, Kobe, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others took off in a helicopter headed to a basketball game. Fog covered Los Angeles skies, grounding most air traffic, but the flight continued. The pilot circled near Glendale, reported low altitude, and then climbed rapidly before crashing into a Calabasas hillside at 9:45 in the morning. Everyone on board was killed instantly. The crash was blamed on disorientation and poor weather, and investigators said the pilot violated protocol during the 40-minute flight. Kobe and Gianna were buried privately in February, and days later, the public honored them at Staples Center in a packed memorial. Tributes poured in across sports and entertainment. The Lakers postponed their next game, and when they returned, they honored Kobe with a pregame ceremony, and every starter introduced as Kobe Bryant. The All-Star Game MVP award was renamed in his honor, and teams opened games with intentional shot clock violations to pay respect. His widow, Vanessa, later won a massive settlement over photos taken at the crash site. A statue of Kobe and Gianna now stands where the crash occurred. Kobe was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2021, and the Lakers continue to celebrate his legacy through jerseys, tributes, and a permanent statue outside their home arena. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. We miss you. Len Bias. One of the brightest stars in college basketball, Len Bias dominated at Maryland and won 2 Player of the Year awards in the Atlantic Coast Conference. He wowed scouts with his athleticism and explosive scoring, and by his senior season, many believed he was the most complete forward in the country. On June 17, 1986, the Boston Celtics selected him 2nd overall. Just 1 day later, Bias and his father flew to Boston for team meetings and endorsement talks. Hours after returning home, he joined teammates and a friend at his campus dorm. Between 2:30 and 6 in the morning, they used cocaine, and Bias collapsed soon after. Medics tried for over 2 hours, but he never regained consciousness. He was pronounced dead at 8:55 in the morning. The cause was cardiac arrest brought on by cocaine use. His death shocked the sports world and sparked political action. It led to the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986, now known as the Len Bias Law. Investigations revealed he'd struggled academically and had failed all of his final courses. Maryland's head coach and athletic director both resigned. Thousands attended his memorial, and the Celtics gifted his unused jersey to his mother. Tragedy struck again in 1990 when his brother Jay was murdered and buried beside him. Rest in peace, Len and Jay Bias. Lorenzen Wright. On July 18, 2010, Lorenzen left his ex-wife's house in Tennessee and was never seen again. The next day, a 911 dispatcher picked up a call from his phone and heard 11 gunshots. but the call wasn't reported for 10 days, stalling the investigation. His family filed a missing persons report on July 22nd, and 6 days later, his body was found in a wooded area outside Memphis. His death was ruled a homicide, and police offered a reward for information. For years, the case went cold, until 2017, when a gun was found in a lake in Mississippi. A few weeks later, Billy Turner, a church deacon, was charged with first-degree murder. Then, Wright's ex-wife, Shara Wright Robinson, was arrested in California. She once asked investigators if she was a suspect and claimed the list was long, but detectives believe she helped plot the killing for a $1 million life insurance payout. Her home had been searched early on, and investigators found burned metal and a letter addressed to the couple. In 2014, she quietly settled a court dispute over how she spent that money. On July 25, 2019, she pled guilty to helping plan Lorenzen's murder and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Rest in peace, Lorenzen Wright, one of the saddest moments in NBA history. Reggie Lewis. On July 27, 1993, Celtics star Reggie Lewis collapsed during an off-season workout at Brandeis University and never got back up. He was just 27. University police tried to revive him, but nothing worked. His death was ruled sudden cardiac arrest caused by hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a condition that's known to strike young athletes without warning. He was buried in an unmarked grave at Forest Hill Cemetery in Massachusetts. After his death, controversy followed. Some doctors suspected cocaine played a role, though that was never proven. The Wall Street Journal reported that physicians were blocked from investigating further due to pushback from Lewis's family and what they called a dismissive attitude from the league. The Celtics blasted the article and threatened a lawsuit. One doctor treating Lewis claimed Reggie had admitted to using cocaine weeks before the collapse, but the coroner who performed the autopsy disagreed, saying his heart damage didn't match that of a cocaine user. He also found signs of a common virus in the heart tissue. In Boston, Lewis's legacy lives on through the Reggie Lewis Track and Athletic Center. The Celtics retired his number 35 jersey in 1995. For 2 full seasons, his contract remained on the books, prompting future changes in the league's salary cap rules. Rest in peace, Reggie Lewis. Drazen Petrovic. After the best season of his NBA career, Drazen joined Croatia's national team in Europe while thinking about leaving the league altogether. He was frustrated with how little recognition he'd received and had huge offers from Greece on the table. Instead of flying home, he chose to drive from Germany with a woman he'd recently met. On June 7, 1993, while sleeping in the passenger seat, their car crashed into a truck on a rainy German highway. Drazen was thrown from the vehicle and died instantly from severe head injuries. His funeral in Zagreb drew thousands, and tributes began pouring in from all over the world. The Nets retired his number 3. The NBA held a moment of silence before the finals, and his name became part of awards, trophies, and stadiums. Cities in Croatia named streets and squares after him. He was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2002 and honored again by FIBA 5 years later. A museum opened in Zagreb showcasing his life and career. Documentaries, statues, and biographies helped preserve his legacy. He paved the way for international players in the NBA and inspired an entire generation. Though his time in the league was short, Drazen's impact has lasted far beyond his final game. Rest in peace, Drazen would have been one of the greatest of all time. Minneapolis Lakers, Cornfield Landing. On January 18, 1960, the Minneapolis Lakers came terrifyingly close to disaster. After a game in St. Louis, the team boarded a Douglas DC-3 headed to Minneapolis. 10 minutes after takeoff, the plane suffered a complete electrical failure. The heater, lights, fuel gauge, defroster, compass, and radio all went out. In the middle of a snowstorm and with no communication or navigation, the pilots had no choice but to continue flying blind. Turning back to St. Louis wasn't an option due to air traffic, so the crew tried to make it north. For over 4 hours, the plane wandered off course, gradually running out of fuel. At around 1:30 in the morning, they finally spotted lights below. It was Carroll, Iowa. With no airport in sight, the pilots circled the area before making a risky landing in a snow-covered cornfield. All 23 people on board survived. That included Coach Jim Pollard, players like Elgin Baylor, Hot Rod Hundley, Bobby Leonard, and a mix of team staff, family, and fans. The plane had landed just hundreds of yards from houses. It's still remembered as one of the closest brushes with death in professional sports history. A crash seemed certain, but instead, they walked away into the snow. James R. Jordan Sr. On July 23, 1993, Michael Jordan's father, James Jordan, was killed in a shocking and tragic event. After playing golf and driving home late at night, he pulled over to rest in a parking lot near Lumberton, North Carolina. While he slept in his car, 2 men, Larry DeMary and Daniel Green, noticed the red Lexus with a license plate reading UNC 0023. Green shot Jordan while he slept, and they stole the car along with personal items, including 2 NBA championship rings. His body was dumped in a swamp across the state line in South Carolina and wasn't found for 11 days. Because of decomposition, he wasn't identified until dental records were provided. His remains were cremated, and his ashes were buried in North Carolina. DeMary and Green were arrested after using Jordan's phone and were later convicted. Green always claimed DeMary was the shooter, while DeMary blamed Green. In 2018, Green's legal team argued he wasn't the killer and asked for a new trial, but the request was denied. James Jordan had been one of the biggest influences on Michael's life, encouraging both basketball and baseball. His death devastated the Jordan family and shocked the entire sports world. Rest in peace. James Jordan Sr. Donald Sterling. Donald Sterling was banned for life from the NBA in April of 2014 after a leaked audio recording captured him making racist remarks to his girlfriend, V. Stiviano. In the recording, Sterling told her not to associate publicly with black people or bring them to Clippers games, referencing a photo with Magic Johnson. The comments triggered immediate backlash across the league and beyond, with players, owners, sponsors, and even President Barack Obama condemning his statements. On April 29th, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver fined Sterling $2.5 million and banned him from all league activities, promising to force the sale of the Clippers. Sterling's wife Shelley acted swiftly, securing a deal to sell the team to Steve Ballmer for $2 billion, though Donald Sterling attempted to block the sale and filed lawsuits against the NBA, his wife, and others. A probate judge ruled Shelley had legal authority based on medical evaluations, declaring Sterling mentally unfit. The sale closed in August, officially transferring ownership. Sterling later dropped his lawsuits, and the courts ultimately dismissed them. The incident led to increased scrutiny of ownership conduct in sports and marked a turning point in how the NBA responded to racism within its leadership ranks. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to start posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, league shutdown. Rudy Gobert's positive test shut everything down in an instant. The league was already preparing for empty arenas and limited access, but that test result changed the entire season. The Jazz and Thunder game never tipped off. Announcers told fans to calmly leave, and the night ended with complete confusion. Other teams who recently played the Jazz had to isolate for 2 weeks. That included the Celtics, Pistons, Cavaliers, Raptors, Knicks, and Thunder. The league suspended everything right after the March 11th games ended. That hadn't happened since the 2011 lockout. The very next day, the G League was also paused. It was clear the situation wasn't going away anytime soon. Multiple players tested positive afterward, including Donovan Mitchell, Christian Wood, and Kevin Durant. The bubble eventually brought basketball back, but that shutdown cost the league hundreds of millions. Entire arenas sat empty. Workers lost paychecks, and everything felt surreal. Teams like the Pistons even offered their training facilities to health officials. Everyone had to adapt fast. Players were locked into their market areas, practices were canceled, and trainers had to check in daily. The league stayed silent until May, hoping things would change. No fans, no travel, no timelines, just isolation. That entire stretch reshaped how the league viewed health and safety protocols moving forward. Paul George's injury. That summer was supposed to be a showcase for Paul George. He was basically guaranteed a spot on Team USA for the World Cup in Spain. But during a Las Vegas scrimmage on August 1st, everything changed in one horrifying moment. After contesting a foul on James Harden, George landed awkwardly at the stanchion and suffered a brutal compound fracture in his right leg. The gym went silent. Coach K immediately stopped the scrimmage out of respect for George and his family. He was rushed into surgery, where doctors inserted a pin into the leg. There wasn't a timeline at first, but everyone expected him to miss the entire season. George never gave up hope. By late September, he was already putting weight on the leg. By October, he was back to shooting jump. Fast forward to February 26th, and he joined his first full practice, a few days ahead of schedule. By March 20th, he was being listed as a real possibility to play. On April 5th, he officially returned. In just 15 minutes, he scored 13 points and knocked down 2 fourth-quarter threes to help beat the Heat. He closed out the year playing in 6 games and averaged nearly 9 points and 4 rebounds. The punch. On December 9th, 1977, chaos broke out during a Lakers and Rockets game. As Rudy Tomjanovich ran in to stop a scuffle at midcourt, Kermit Washington turned and threw a vicious punch. That one swing shattered Rudy's face and left him unconscious in a pool of blood. The entire arena froze. The silence was deafening. Players said it sounded like a melon exploding on concrete. Rudy's injuries were life-threatening. He had spinal fluid leaking into his mouth, a fractured skull, a broken jaw, and a detached facial structure. One doctor said most people with similar damage didn't survive. Rudy somehow stood up and made it to the locker room before being rushed to the hospital. Meanwhile, Washington became the face of the controversy. His punch was replayed on national television, turned into late-night comedy, and sparked national outrage. He was suspended for 60 days and fined $10,000. The league immediately cracked down, creating automatic ejections and suspensions for punches. Washington received no support from his team and faced threats, hate mail, and isolation. Even his pregnant wife was denied medical service. That one moment didn't just end Rudy's season, it changed league policy, ruined a reputation, and left a permanent scar on NBA history. Delonte West struggles. In February 2016, Delonte West was seen barefoot, wearing a hospital gown in Houston. By that summer, a photo of him panhandling in Maryland went viral. The internet blew up with claims he was homeless. West fired back, saying he was helping a quadriplegic man and wasn't without a home. Still, concerns about his mental health kept growing. In January 2020, footage surfaced showing him in handcuffs on a highway in Washington, and it shook a lot of fans. Later that year, another photo showed him begging in Dallas. That's when Mark Cuban stepped in. He picked West up from a gas station and paid for rehab. West got clean, reunited with his mother, and even got a job at the treatment facility. But it didn't last. In July 2022, more videos showed him begging in Virginia. Then in October, he was arrested in Fairfax County for trying to get into a stranger's car. It didn't stop there. In June 2024, police found him unresponsive after resisting arrest. Narcan was used twice before it worked. Just weeks later, he was filmed stumbling around a Virginia parking lot. By November, he was arrested again for trespassing. West's life has been a heartbreaking roller coaster. NBA betting scandal. In 2007, reports broke that referee Tim Donaghy had bet on NBA games, including ones he officiated. He later admitted he'd been placing bets going back to 2003. Donaghy claimed he wasn't fixing games, just using inside info. But co-conspirators said the real money came from games he actually worked. Most of the winning bets were tied directly to his whistle. Donaghy surrendered in August and pled guilty to 2 federal charges. He was accused of tipping off gamblers, using coded language about injuries, matchups, and which refs disliked which players. He was sentenced to 15 months in prison and 3 years of supervised release. The scandal exploded when he claimed certain playoff games were rigged to extend series, with many pointing to the 2002 Western Conference Finals. While those allegations were never proven, the damage was done. Bettors noticed massive line shifts and consistent wins when Donaghy reffed. In response, the league overhauled referee gambling policies and began tracking betting trends and referee assignments more closely. Donaghy released a book after prison, but many of its claims were debunked. The league never fully recovered from the public distrust. This wasn't just one-man betting, it cracked the foundation of the league's integrity. Chris Washburn's downfall. Chris Washburn came into the league with sky-high expectations, but after just 72 games, split between Golden State and Atlanta, his career collapsed. He averaged only a little over 3 points and 2 rebounds. In June of 1989, he was banned for life after failing 3 drug tests in 3 years. That ban cemented his place as one of the biggest busts in NBA draft history. Sports Illustrated even ranked him second on their all-time draft bust list. After the NBA, Washburn bounced around minor leagues and played overseas in countries like Greece, Spain, and Colombia. But his post-basketball life was rough. He ended up in Houston, completely broke, living in abandoned buildings and crack houses and digging through trash for food. Somehow, he turned it around. He overcame his addiction and began helping others do the same. By 2011, he tried starting fresh with a fried chicken spot in his hometown, Hickory, North Carolina. It was called Washburn's Wings and More, but it shut down 2 years later. Then in 2014, he got arrested after someone in his car didn't pay for gas, though the charges were dropped. Washburn's story is a brutal reminder of how fast promise can spiral into survival. Shaun Livingston's injury. On February 26, 2007, everything changed for Shaun Livingston. After going up for a layup against Charlotte, he landed awkwardly, and his left leg snapped sideways. It was one of the most gruesome injuries in NBA history. He tore his ACL, PCL, and lateral meniscus, sprained his MCL, dislocated his kneecap, and even dislocated the joint between his tibia and fibula. Doctors feared they might have to amputate the leg. That's how bad it was. Before the injury, Livingston had already missed over 100 games in his first 3 years due to various injuries. But this was on another level. The damage was so extensive, he had to relearn how to walk. The recovery wasn't just about basketball, it was about saving his leg. Nobody knew if he'd play again. He spent months in intense rehab just to stand and move again without pain. It wasn't just one ligament or one bone, it was everything in his knee. The amount of trauma made his return to the league seem impossible. The injury didn't just pause his career, it nearly ended his life as an athlete. What followed was one of the hardest roads back any NBA player ever faced. Magic Johnson's announcement. In October of 1991, Magic Johnson was named MVP at the McDonald's Open in Paris. But just weeks later, everything flipped. On November 7th, Magic held a press conference and revealed he tested positive for HIV. He retired from the NBA immediately. He said his wife and unborn child were both safe and promised to spend his life fighting the disease. At the time, HIV was surrounded by stigma and fear. Magic admitted he got the virus through unprotected sex and wanted people to know heterosexuals were at risk too. Rumors spread fast, including claims about his sexuality, which he denied. He later said Thomas helped spread those rumors, though Thomas denied it. Magic's announcement rocked the country. Even the president called him a hero. Fans still voted him into the All-Star game in 1992, but not everyone was supportive. Some teammates thought he shouldn't play. Karl Malone even raised concerns about playing if Magic had an open wound, but Magic dominated, dropped 25 points and won MVP. Then he joined the Dream Team for the Barcelona Olympics. Even with limited minutes, he still made an impact. Magic's story went way beyond basketball. He became a symbol of awareness, strength, and courage during a terrifying era. Gilbert Arenas controversy. On December 24, 2009, Gilbert Arenas admitted he had unloaded guns in his locker at the Verizon Center. That alone broke NBA rules and Washington, D.C. laws. But things got worse fast. Reports came out that Arenas and teammate Javaris Crittenton had pulled guns on each other during a locker room argument over gambling debt. By January, Arenas was charged with carrying an unlicensed pistol. He pled guilty the next day. Just before that, during a pre-game introduction, Arenas turned the situation into a joke by pointing finger guns at his teammates. That move pushed the league over the edge. David Stern suspended him indefinitely, saying Arenas wasn't fit to play. The Wizards called the act unacceptable. Then on January 27th, both Arenas and Crittenton were suspended for the rest of the season. In March, Arenas was sentenced to 2 years of probation and 30 days in a halfway house. He started serving that sentence in April and was released in May. Compared to Arenas, Crittenton got only 1 year of unsupervised probation. Arenas later wrote a public apology, admitting he failed as a role model. When he returned the next season, he switched his jersey number to 9, trying to leave 0 and everything tied to it behind. Derrick Rose's injuries. During Game 1 of the playoffs against Philadelphia, Derrick Rose went down with just over a minute left. He landed awkwardly on a drive and immediately grabbed his left knee. An MRI revealed he tore his ACL, ending his postseason and sending shockwaves across the league. Surgery came in May with a recovery timeline of 8 to 12 months. By January, he returned to full contact practice and was cleared to play by March, but he chose to sit out the entire season. Fans criticized him, but Rose insisted he wouldn't rush back until fully healed. He finally returned in October of 2013, looking stronger and claiming he'd added 5 inches to his vertical. But just as things seemed to turn around, disaster struck again. On November 22nd, he injured his right knee. Another MRI confirmed a torn meniscus. Surgery came 3 days later, and the Bulls ruled him out for the season. In his prime, Rose was one of the most explosive guards in league history, but repeated knee injuries changed his game. He shifted from reckless drives to more control, using floaters and craft to stay effective. By 2021, he led the league in floater efficiency and still ranked among the top finishers at the rim. Cocaine crisis of the 1980s. Michael Ray Richardson, John Drew, Roy Tarpley, Spencer Haywood, those names all became tied to one of the darkest chapters in NBA history. Richardson was banned for life after failing 3 drug tests. Drew was the very first player permanently banned under the league's new policy. Tarpley lost his career after multiple violations. Haywood got kicked off the Lakers during the finals because of his drug use. During the late 70s and 80s, cocaine use exploded in the league. Some estimated that over half the players were using, and a smaller group freebased regularly. It wasn't hidden. Dealers got into locker rooms, and players made transactions around games. The NBA's image plummeted. Ratings dropped. Fans disappeared. Finals games were shown on tape delay. Even Michael Jordan described his rookie team as a traveling circus, fueled by drugs and parties. Commissioner Larry O'Brien downplayed it, but when David Stern stepped in, everything changed. The league adopted a strict 3-strike policy. Counseling first, suspension second, lifetime ban third. That policy took out several stars and sent a message. The NBA also launched background checks and ramped up testing. Rehab became part of the league's approach. By the early 90s, the crisis faded, and a new generation of players helped put the league back on track.